Hi, welcome you all in this session. In this session we will talk about basics of C++ programming, and this topic is related to your BCS 031 course. As you know, programming is one of the important component of the computer science study and computer science application study. As a student, we give more emphasis towards programming and problem solving when we pursue our courses. Whatever theoretical courses we study, we learn, we try to implement those things using our practical skills, using our programming skills, and for that we learn programming languages. You are already aware about programming in your previous semester. You have done programming using C and programming using assembly language. So, basic constructs of the programming are known to you. You know what is meaning of programming, you know what are the components are there in the programming, and when we talk about programming using C++, we talk about a little bit shift from the concepts which we have used in our C programming, and we have learned that C programming is a structured approach of programming. Do you know what is meaning of structured approach? In that approach, what actually you are having? You are having different modules, and those modules by combining you are making solutions. What are those modules? Those modules are called our functions. So, we make our functions, and those functions what we do? We call those functions to solve the different section of our problem. In this session, we will try to revisit what actually we are going to use in C++ programming as a basic constructs, right. We will try to define what actually C++ programming means for us as a student, otherwise C++ programming in general. Then we will discuss about some basic data type available in C++ programming. It means we are having different type of data available with us, and to handle those data or to store those different type of data, different types are defined, right. So, that we will see, and then operators. Operators means what? Whatever we operation we perform, we are having some operands and some operators, and if we are going to check certain condition, we use this conditional operator, and again definitely it is a kind of comparison, and on the basis of that comparison we draw a conclusion. And after that what we do? We see our program in terms of different type of statements. What actually program is? A program is collection of statements, and each and every individual statement is supposed to perform some operation. So, these statements are of different types. What are the different type of statements? One is, if one statement is there, after that we will write another statement, after that another statement. It means a series of activities we are performing. So, we say that these are the sequential statement, means they will be executing one after another in a sequence. Another is some iterative statement. Iterative means some set of statement we are having, but repeatedly we are executing that statement. So, for that we use concept of loopings, that we will see. And then another is conditional statement. If we are having some set of statement and we are going to choose some out of that using certain conditions, then we say these type of statement will be executed on the basis of certain conditions, whether they are true. On the basis of that we will choose some statement. If those conditions are false, we choose some other set of statement to execute. So, these are the basic approaches of solving the problems. Now, one thing here we can think about that, if these are the basic things, are these basic things similar to C and C++, or there are some different. So, basic philosophy of writing statement and execution of statement remains same, whether it is C, C++, Java or some other programming languages. A statement will be of these three natures only. whether it is sequential or it is iterative or it is conditional. So, those basic constructs are going to be same in all the programming languages, across the programming languages, but how actually internal philosophy of implementation of your solution is there, on the basis of that you decide that which kind of approach we are following. For example, as we discussed that in structured approach what we are having, different modules or different functions we are having, those functions are being called to perform the operation. And what about data? In C what we did? We declare some data or some variable global variable, and some variable or some data local to the method or function. So, some data belong to all if it is global, and some data is very close or limited to that particular function in which it is declared and defined, right. So, these basic things we will try to see, and after that we will go for some example, basic example we will see, and if time permits we will try to write simple program and see how actually we proceed in, or we get a feel in how actually we can write our program and execute it. So, with this you can see on the screen a C++ program is defined as a collection of objects that communicate with each other by invoking or calling each other methods. Now, if we discuss around this statement, what is meaning of it? We are not talking about C++ program is collection of methods, functions. We are talking about C++ program is collection of object. Entity means what? Entity means anything which we can thought of as existence in terms of physical or logical. So, in our programs in C what we did? We did not thought about anything in terms of objects. Object means, if let us talk about objects as a student. So, a student is an object, and that object is having certain property and certain behavior. Similarly, if we talk about teacher, teacher is an object. The TV screen which you are seeing, that is also as an object. If we see all these three objects which are being used for the purpose of solving this individual problem of delivery of lecture, many other objects are there. For example, the camera being used in this studio is object, and many more you can visualize now. Even the pen which you are having in your hands right now is an object, the chair on which you are sitting is an object. But in object oriented programming, all the objects together we are not going to use. Obviously, we talk about objects in very specific context. So, the meaning of this statement is that it is defined as a collection of object. Collection do not means that you take anything and put in your collection. Collection is something which is very cautiously chosen. So, objects are very cautiously selected or chosen for our problem solving. We will think about only those objects which really belong to our problem when we are solving a specific problem, right. So, in general concept of object is okay, this whole world is interacting with object, moving with object, whatsoever we can thought of which is having an existence in terms of logical or physical is an object. So, majority of the things which we see around us in this world is an object. So, that is why when we will discuss in our next lecture about objects and classes in little bit more detail, there we will give more emphasis on what actually object is and how we should feel about object oriented programming, and how gradually we should move from the thinking which we have developed as a student of C++ course or as a expert of C programming to gradually move from C programming to C++ programming. Now, let us discuss about the primitive data types, some basic data types which are available in C++, You can see on screen, list is available here: Boolean, character, integer, floating point, double floating point, and one is valueless void. So, Boolean is used for storing values which are either true or false. Boolean is having only two value in itself, that is 0 or 1, true or false. And then character, and there are different character sets available, different kind of coding system available for representing characters. The very popular coding system is ASCII, ASCII codes or ASCII characters. And then integer, numeric value, and that is whole numeric value, it is not having fraction in it. For example, integer values, you can say the date, today date if you have to store, you will store as a integer. Today is 30th, so you will store that 30 in the integer data type, or you will declare a variable of type integer and in that you will store. So, for storing integer values we declare or have the data type, that is integer. And then floating point, decimal means some fraction you are having, after whole some more fraction you are having, then floating point, and double is also the same. But one thing here, we are not talking about the size, what actually the size of the individual variable which is going to store the value, that size is limited. For that, one method you have used in your C programming or you have learned, that is size of. Size of method is available to find out the size of individual data type supported by that particular system. So, that size of program we will see here for C++ programming, and from there we will find that what is the actual size of the individual data type available here. Void is valueless, it is just return the control from one place to another. So, void do not store any value. So, this is a program you can see on screen, you read it, very simple program, no complexity, simple use of size of method or size of function here, and that size of function is finding out the size of character, and then size of integer, size of short integer, size of long integer, size of float, and size of double. So, you can see the size of character is output also shown on the screen. It is character is 1 byte, and then integer is 4, short integer is of 2, long is 4, means long and int both are same here in this system on which the program is running, and then double is 8. So, this program you may try out in your lab and find out the size of the different data type available in your system there. Sometime it is system dependent. Now, declaration of the variables, how we declare variables? The syntax for that particular is that we write data type, then the name of the variables. More than one variable you can declare by separating them by semicolon. In this screen what you can see is integer variables are declared. How many integer variables are there? 3, very good. Character variables 2, and similarly one float variable and one double variable is declared. So, this is the declaration, and why we declare these variable? Because we need these variable when we solve our problem. So, we declare those variable and then we use those variable for solving the specific problem. Now, operators let me talk about a little bit. So, arithmetic operators, relational operators, logical operators, bitwise operator and assignment operator. So, arithmetic operators are addition, division, and one special is the modulus operation. Addition for adding two values, and similarly subtraction for getting difference, multiplication for multiplication. What is modulus? It gives the remainder. So, if we are having a value or variable, let us say a, and another variable, let us say b, and if we apply a modulus b, then it will give the remainder. It will divide a by b, and whatever the remainder is, that will be our modulus. Relational operator. So, it is for comparison purpose, and that comparison purpose include whether two values are same. For that what we check, equal to. If we are having two variable, let us say again a and b, if I say a equal to is double equal to sign here. So, a equal to b, it will tell true when if a and b both are having the same value, then it will say true, otherwise it will say false. So, we will decide on the basis of the result of that comparison that whether this stands true or false. Similarly, greater than, less than, and other is greater than equal to and less than equal to, and the last one is you can see on a screen, it is not equal to, right. And then logical operators. Logical operators are used. You have studied some logical operation, AND gate, OR gate, and something related to that in your computer organization course, that is MCS 012, right. So, in that you have seen, and similarly a replica of that is available here, and this says if we are having two variables, let us say again a and b, and if I am saying a, the logical operator AND, that is 2 ampersand, and then b, it means it will give true bitwise operator for performing the operation on a specific bit. For example, if you are ANDing some bit, or sometimes situations arise that you have to go and change the specific bit position. For example, let us say we are having some value stored in terms of 0 1 0 1, and on the basis of that 0 and 1 on that particular bit position, we are deciding some operation, and in the process we need to change the specific bit position. For that we use bitwise operator, and for that the gate, actually what you have learned, that gate system, that will be actually logic gate system, that actually will be implemented in terms of your programming using this bitwise operators, right. So, you are having bitwise AND, bitwise OR, negation, shift, that says that the bit shifting left or right. So, left shift and right shift. These basic operations, whenever you are having time, you can experiment on your machines, you can write simple programs, and you can explore the possibility how actually these operations are working. So, actually what it will give to you is, it will give a basic confidence that I have feel about how actually these operators are working and what are the actions are being performed on these operators. There is no need to write very lengthy big programs. You take two variable, apply these different operators on these variable, see the result, and even sometime you can take combination of these operators and apply the operators on the different variables, and you can see the result. Meanwhile, you can experiment few more things also, that you take different kind of variables and try to perform the operation between them and see the result. So, these all things, trial and error method will give you confidence and will give you some situations where actually problems are arising. So, and if problems are arising, you will try to find out whether I am doing a logical mistake or I am doing a syntax error, or there is some basic conceptual problem that I am trying to solve and it is not solvable by this method, right. Assignment operator, we know to assign the value from one variable to another, we use assignment operator. So, these are the operators we all are aware, but again we are revisiting it, we are revising it, that these operators are also used in C++ programming. So, these things are given in more detail in your first block of BCS 31 material, and some very good small programs are also there. So, if you are not having some idea to write other programs, you should try to write those programs which are given in your material and should see what is happening there and how it is performing. So, this will generate a kind of trigger and interest in you. And one more thing you can do while you are writing program, sometimes you make your peer group, try to take some your friend around, try to experiment with that program, try to combine the two program and make a single program to get some result. So, in that way we can learn the basic concepts easily and we will be getting a mastery over it, so that we can easily think about our actual problem rather than these basic small component of the programming. Now, different kind of statement as we discussed in the starting of our lecture. One category is the sequential. So, in sequential we do not think about any kind of considerations, we simply write the sequence of statement and execute that. For example, in the previous program we have seen that size of operator or size of function we called, and we called that particular sequentially. So, that was one example of sequential execution of the statement. One by one the statements were executing, right. Now, next we can take next type of statement is the conditional. Conditional means what? Here on the screen you can see one conditional statement is if, and it is frequently used in our programming wherever we try to get condition. Majority of the time we think in terms of if condition and then execute the statement. So, here you can see an if statement consists of a Boolean expression followed by one or more statements. So, that Boolean expression is doing what? So, that Boolean expression is basically checking our condition, and on the basis of the value of the Boolean expression we are deciding that what set of statement to be executed. Now, you can see here on the screen if this condition is what? Boolean expression. So, this condition will be either after evaluation of the expression, this will be either true or false. So, if it is true, then whatsoever inside this particular block, the block is whatsoever written within these curly braces, start and end curly braces. So, these statements will be executed, but if condition is false, then we will not execute whatsoever inside this block, we will go outside of this block. Okay. One more category of if statement is nested if. So, it will exactly work with the same philosophy, but inside if statement we will have other if statements. So, it means we are having different level of checking of the conditions. There are different Boolean expressions that we are going to evaluate. On the basis of those different categories we are going to decide that which statement to be executed, which not to be executed. So, here we can say that it is a process of selection of some statement on the basis of certain condition. So, whenever we are talking about conditional statement, we are talking about selection. We are not talking about in general we will flow from one statement to another. We are giving a check, on the basis of that check condition or the value, we are deciding whether we have to execute some specific set of statement or not. And one is if then else. So, we are making two category. One is if condition is true, that will be executed, otherwise else part will be executed, right. If condition is true, then statement 1 will be executed or statement set 1 will be executed, otherwise statement set 2 will be executed. So, these all things are having local effect in your programming, right. It is not that on the basis of single if statement you are going to decide what is happening in your whole program. At a specific point in your programming you are checking whether some set of statement to be executed or not, some set of statement to be considered or not. Similarly, these all basic constructs we may think in terms of execution of objects also. These statements are simple statements for execution for performing some specific operation, but if we make an object and that object selection or rejection we are doing on the basis of certain condition, there also we are going to use if statement, whether one method to be called or not, one method to be executed or not. Even sometime we may decide that which variable to be passed as an argument to perform the operation, that also may be based on certain conditions. So, those conditions we will apply and we will select the individual value or individual operation, right. Now, one conditional statement is switch. Switch is a kind of selection, but this selection is talking about one out of several. So, in switch this I is what we pass an integer value. So, this integer value will decide, it means we are having different cases, okay. We have to choose one and that selection will be on the basis of what is value of that I we are passing to it, right. So, here we are not checking condition, here we are taking value and that value is deciding that to which individual case we have to go. Now, looping. Looping means repetition. If the same set of statement we are going to repeat again and again, then we use loop. There are three loops which are generally very popular and used, and these are while loop, do while and for loop. So, while loop again start with checking of a condition, while, then on the screen you can see while, then what we are having condition and then some set of statement. So, this statement set will be executed how many times? Yes,
according to the condition.
According to the condition. It means until our condition is not getting false, till the condition is true, we will keep on executing the content or statements inside the loop, right. Now, it means what? There is a control, that control is our condition, and on the basis of that control we are giving entry inside the loop. So, where we change this control? Somewhere we have to change this control, so that at some point of time when our activities are performed, the control should signal that you go out of this loop, now activity is over. It means this condition when we are running the loop should move towards becoming false. It means what? If permanently the condition is true, then you will not come out of the loop, and definitely that is not a good logic when we are programming. So, we say that how many times we will execute this statement, 10 times, 15 times, 20 times, this loop will execute. Maybe if you are doing some big program 100 times, 1000 times like that, but after certain number of time the loop should exit. Otherwise, if infinite loop, you may write down one example when you are in your lab, that run an infinite loop and see how you can implement that. You always assign one specific value that is always true in the condition, and your loop will keep on running infinitely. But what actually as a programmer or as a student of programming language we learn, that when we are writing a program in which we are dealing with the loops, we think about a starting point of that particular condition, and we think about that these are the things, when these are the things satisfied, my condition will become false and I will come out of the loop, right. So, that is very important, how actually you are going to implement your logic to make the condition from true to false. Even if your condition is in the beginning false, loop will not run at all, that also may be a situation. But if you are very sure that your loop is going to run at least once, then what you may use? You may use do while loop. In do while loop, what we do? We enter in the loop without considering about the condition. We check the condition after completion of the activities inside that particular block at least once, right. It means after completion of the loop we check the condition, but in while loop before entering in the loop we check the condition, right.
सर एक्चुअली मतलब मैं पूछना चाहता था कि सर जब फोर लूप हम यूज़ करते हैं तो उसमें से टर्मिनेटर नहीं लगाते, क्योंकि सर वो इनफाइनाइट बार लूप रन करेगा, और अगर वही डू वाइल लूप अगर हम यूज़ करते हैं तो उसमें टर्मिनेटर का यूज़ होता है, क्यों सर?
फॉर लूप में आप क्या करते हो, इनिशियल कंडीशन देते हो और उसके बाद टर्मिनेशन का कंडीशन देते हो, और जो आपकी इनिशियल कंडीशन होती है उसको आल्टर करना शुरू करते हो। जैसे स्क्रीन पे आप देखो ज़रा, इनिशियली हमने क्या लिखा हुआ है यहाँ पे हमने लिखा हुआ है एक वेरिएबल आई है जो शुरू में क्या है 0 से इनिशियलाइज है, और हम क्या चेक कर रहे हैं, आई की वैल्यू n से छोटी या बराबर होनी चाहिए, तब तक तो ये चलेगा। जब आई की वैल्यू क्या हो जाएगी, n से बड़ी हो जाएगी, तब हमारा ये लूप जो है टर्मिनेट कर जाएगा। और आई की वैल्यू अब हम क्या कर रहे हैं, यहाँ पे आई की वैल्यू को हम इंक्रीमेंट कर रहे हैं। तो हर बार जब लूप एग्जीक्यूट करेगा या एक प्रोसेस साइकिल कंप्लीट करेगा तो आई की वैल्यू एक बढ़ जाएगी। ठीक, अगर मान लीजिए n की वैल्यू कहीं प्रोग्राम में शुरू में आपने जो n है n = 5 लिखा हुआ है, ठीक, इसका मतलब n में हमने क्या सेव किया हुआ है 5। हम चाहते हैं कि हमारा जो ये लूप है 5 बार चले, 6 बार चले, 0 से 5 6 बार चले और उसके बाद टर्मिनेट हो जाए। तो ये पहली बार चलेगा तो आई 0 है, कंडीशन सेटिस्फाइड है, ये जो हम चेक कर रहे हैं। सो इनिशियल कंडीशन, टर्मिनेटिंग कंडीशन एंड द अल्टरेशन इन द कंडीशन, ये 3 चीज़ें चल रही हैं। तो इनफाइनाइट यहाँ कब होगा, यहाँ पे हम अभी दे दें कि आई इज़ लेस देन इक्वल टू 0, लेस देन 0 कर दें हम, मान लीजिए लेस देन 0 का मतलब आई ऑलरेडी 0 है और ये पॉजिटिव की तरफ जा रहा है, तो लेस देन 0 तो कभी नहीं होगा। तो ये फिर एक तरीके से इनफाइनाइट लूप में चला जाएगा और कहीं ना कहीं हमने एक लॉजिकल मिस्टेक कमिट कर दी। ठीक, तो इस तरीके से हमें चेक करना है कोई भी कंडीशन हमारी। देखिए, जब लूप हम चला रहे हैं तो लूप किसी पर्पज़ से चला रहे हैं। जैसे मान लीजिए कि एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल हम लेते हैं कि 10 बच्चों के नंबर हमें जोड़ने हैं। एक एरे में हमने 10 बच्चों के नंबर अलग अलग रखे हुए हैं, उनको हमें जोड़ के सम निकालना है या एवरेज निकालना है। तो एक तो तरीका है कि सारे बच्चों के नंबर लें और सारे के 10 के अलग अलग हम फिर प्लस 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 करें बारी बारी से, जो हमारा फाइनल रिजल्ट है उसमें। या तो एक पर्टिकुलर इंडेक्स जो लेट अस से नंबर आई है एरे का, उस आई को हम कंटिन्यूसली इंक्रीमेंट करते जाएं और एक एक को सम में जोड़ते जाएं और अपना लूप हम 10 बार चला दें तो वो जुड़ जाएगा। सो लूप इज़ नथिंग बट वी कैन थिंक अबाउट दैट द राइटिंग ऑफ सेम थिंग दैट मेनी टाइम। So instead of writing the same statements or same activities n time, what we do, we run the same activity n time, and that n is our condition. So there is one more loop, that is for loop, and it is also used for the purpose of looping, right? Now let us think about solution in terms of different methods and functions. So function means what? Function is a subset, independent section of the program to perform one specific activity or some specific activity. For example, let us say we are going to solve a problem in that we need square of a given number. So to get the square of a given number, we can write a separate function to find out the square of that number, and when we will pass that number to that function, it will get the square and it will return the value of it. You might have written some function like find the factorial of a given number. So what we write inside that function, we write the mechanism or the algorithm to find out the factorial of the number which we are passing as argument. So what is actually the prototype of writing a function? A function should return something, right? So there is a return type and then function name and then parameter list, and inside this body of the function means what? The operation which we are expecting from this function will be performed inside this block, and this is the body of function. For example, to find out the square, what we will do? We will take a return type, let us say as an integer. So that will be int, and then function name, let us say square, and then inside that again we are passing one integer variable. So int and then that variable name we will pass it, and inside this what we will write? We will either write return the value a into a, or we will take one local variable to store the result of that particular operation and then return that particular, right. So this is the basic prototype of writing a function. One example here we may see, If we are talking about, let us say, a function that is going to give the current amount available in a specific account in a bank, then this function is expected to return one integer value. We are assuming that the amount available is the whole number and not fractions. So, it will return the amount that is integer, then the name of the function, and then what we are passing, account number, because account number will be the basic information required for this particular function to find out the account, and from there read the value available in the balance and then return that particular value from the balance, right. So, this is reflecting a prototype or a declaration of one individual function. Similarly, we can thought of many examples we have done already in our programming, many examples we have written different functions, and this type of prototype we use, return type, then name of the function, then parameter list. One more thing here we may discuss, that whenever we are giving naming either to variable or to function, it should carry a little bit closer meaning associated with its operations. For example, we are talking about current balance. So, somewhat we may little bit associate that it is talking about some account and balance available in that particular account currently. And again we are talking about account number, it means we are talking about something which is going to be associated with the individual account. Now, one small program is there, you may read on screen, int, then function, and inside this function what we are passing, one parameter, and then one condition is there. This condition is deciding if the value of n is 1, in that case we are returning 1 itself, otherwise what we are going to do, we are going to call that function again with one less value. It means it is a function, which kind of function, recursive. Recursion पढ़ा है आपने, recursion means calling to itself, but going towards termination, completion. तो termination या completion की तरफ हम कैसे जाएंगे, n-1 पे कॉल किया अभी, अगर n की वैल्यू अगली बार फिर मैच 1 नहीं करती है तो क्या करेंगे, n-2 पे, and ultimately by reduction we will reach n equal to 1, and in that case it will return 1 and automatically n into n-1 into n-2, this will perform the operation, right. तो आपने एक चीज़ और पढ़ा होगा रिकर्सन में अपने, कि आप क्या यूज करते हैं, स्टैक. हर इंडिविजुअल कॉल पे जो पिछले वाला आपका ऑपरेशन या डेटा होता है, वैल्यू होती है, वो स्टोर होती है आपके स्टैक में, और फाइनली आप ऑपरेशन अप्लाई करते हैं और सारे वैल्यूज़ को कॉल करते हैं और एग्जीक्यूट करते हैं, राइट. सो इट इज़ ए काइंड ऑफ रिवर्ट बैक ऑपरेशन. So, you can think about this recursion as that it is calling fact 1, then fact 2, fact 3, fact 4, in this way it is calling and it is giving the value of that n outside. So, finally, what we are getting, n into n minus 1 into n minus 2 into n minus 3 and finally 1. This is a simple program because it is a C++ programming, but what you can see here is it is more similar to C program, only some very basic component like C in and C out are different. One more thing is different, that is the name space we are using and the inclusion of IO stream. This is the only thing which is different from a C program, otherwise it is a C program. So, here actually we are not talking about power of C++ programming, here we are talking about the constructs which are used in C++ programming, which is exactly similar to C programming, right. So, this program also you may try in your lab, write a factorial function recursively call, otherwise you may convert this recursive function to non-recursive and try. So, both you can see. So, in that you will use more conditions, maybe sometime you will use looping. So, it is a kind of hint that by using loop you try to find out a non-recursive implementation of factorial calculation, right. So, if I am entering value 5 in my program, it will give 120 as a result. Another program again this program is a display of the basic constructs which are used in C and C++ both. So, by end of this lecture we are familiar that we are aware about what actually C++ is going to talk is what we have learned already. No? So, in terms of writing program, in terms of using basic constructs, we do not have to start from 0. We are having things available with us which we have learned in our C programming, and exactly the same type of things we are going to do in C++ programming, but we will see that how actually some different kind of approach or some different intelligence we have to apply to write the program. So, this program is to find out a prime number, you can see on screen, and in this we have used for loop, if condition, and after that if and else condition, right. So, you know what is a prime number? A number which is either divisible by 1 or itself. So, we have not applied any intelligence in writing this program, it is very simple program, and this program is saying that you keep on dividing the number by the numbers starting from 1 to the number which to be divided, and you try to find out the remainder. See here in if condition you can see that it is talking about modulus. So, it is talking about remainder. If remainder is 0, it means it is divisible. If it is divisible, it is not a prime number. That is the only logic applied here, right. So, in that what we are doing? We are having a variable counter, and that counter variable we are incrementing, and if counter become 2, 1 obviously it will become, because it will be divisible by itself. If it is 2, it means it has been divisible by some other number also, that is why it is not a prime number. So far we have discussed in this particular session about C++ programming in context of what we have already learned in C, how we can revisit that, how we can revise that and use in our C++ programming, and these basic things are given in more detail in your BCS 31 block 1, and that block 1 discuss about these basic things. And after this session, in next session we will be discussing about that how actually we have to think differently in C++ programming. If so far we have discussed basic constructs which are same in C and C++ both, then definitely in next we have to look about how it is different and why it is relatively better, or it is having some more advantage, and if not, why not, right. So, these are the references which you can refer for this lecture, and even you can go some tutorial which are very beautifully written on the net. These two tutorials are the reference tutorial I have referred for discussion with you, and the programming book which I have referred for this lecture is the D. Ravichandran programming book. This book basically talk the basic things of the programming in the beginning as we are discussing, and then it talks about object orientation. So, many other books and materials are available, you can see the references of BCS 1 material also, and you can find many things related to this, some programs in C++, even you can explore the net, you can explore some material available on the internet and you can learn from there also. But basic things obviously you will find in your material, you explore those all things. In addition to that, if you need some help, you can contact me. So, with this we conclude this session.